Viserys Targaryen here, and I just wanted you to know, Christmas is coming.
All right, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Greasy Commons YouTube channel. Today's video, we are going to be talking about the Hooded Man of Winterfell theory. I find this theory very interesting given that there's really not a lot of evidence to look at, right? A lot of this is speculation as of right now. There's little tidbits, things here and there, just off the interaction we can try and figure out who this person is. But this is one of those theories that I think George has left very wide open. And this is maybe like a theory that's always going to be a theory that we will never get the actual answer to. So before we get into the video, I just want to see what are your guys' thoughts on who the Hooded Man is. I have my preferred theory, but I'm not very like set in my ways. This is one of those where I'm just like, I have one that I think is solid, but I'm not confident about it. So let me know what your favorite theory is for the Hooded Man and give me some reasons why, because I'm very open to being, you know, to having my mind changed. We even talked about one of the theories actually a little bit in yesterday's video when we kind of talked about the Grand Northern Conspiracy and going off of that general theory. It has a certain way in which it's predicting who that character is, and we're going to kind of go a different route in today's video as we kind of talked about that option already. Let's start with a quote from the book. This is pretty much our only interaction with this character. But farther on, he came upon a man striding the opposite direction, a hooded cloak flapping behind him. When they found themselves face to face, their eyes met briefly. The man put a hand on his dagger. Theon Turncloak, Theon Kinslayer. I'm not, I never was. I was Ironborn. False as all you were. How is it you still breathe? The gods are not done with me, Theon answered, wondering if this could be the killer. The Nightwalker who had stuffed Yellow Dick's cock into his mouth and pushed Roger Ryswell's groom off the battlements. Oddly, he was not afraid. He pulled the glove from his left hand. Lord Ramsay is not done with me. The man looked and laughed. I leave you to him then. So this is interesting because the person that this is knows who Theon is quite quickly, even in blizzardy conditions. Now I get it, right? They come face to face, but he knows who Theon is right away. So you'd have to kind of look at this and go, okay, is this someone that has been paying quite a lot of attention to Theon, just picking up who he is from maybe like the feast or whenever Ramsay talks about him or any of those things, or just picking up on gossip within the castle? Or is this someone that actually knew Theon quite a lot? And the reason I would even stray away from that idea of knowing Theon right away is Theon is unrecognizable. Think about the first chapter we get with Reek. He's unrecognizable, right? Like, he looks aged by years, right? Theon's not very old, but he looks like an old man now. And so one thing I want to look at when we take a look at this passage in this quote, the person that is this hooded cloak person, they are very confident. Like, it doesn't really seem like they're trying to hide themselves. They're kind of walking around like they own the place, right? Like coming right up to Theon, taunting Theon, already pointing to his dagger. Very interesting. Doesn't really seem like they're trying to hide in the shadows, be this elusive killer. So that right away is something that's very interesting. Now, something that I want to note with Theon himself is Theon is tended to being shown as a little bit more meeker, you know, not showing off like what has happened to him, right? Like having his hands basically destroyed and disfigured. But he doesn't shy away with that at all. Again, remember in this passage, he holds his hand up. He pulls the glove off from his left hand. This is all very odd behavior from someone like Theon, who at this point is still very much Reek. So I want to note all these things because something doesn't really seem right. And the theory that I find to be the most acceptable given the information we know here, as this is just a figment of Theon's imagination, of his borderline personality, how he has multiple different personalities. We get that very clearly with Reek and Theon. And this character kind of does remind you of Theon's past self. Theon was always very cocky. He was someone that kind of played things for jokes and things like that. And that's kind of what we see here. And what we really would understand is this inner monologue here, when you think about the conversation going on, is really the monologue and what was going on in Theon's head kind of at the end of his arc before he becomes Reek, who is he? Was he Ironborn? Is he a Stark? And all of these things, and talking about being a Kinslayer, I find this very interesting because it kind of goes to the core root of Theon's whole theme, of his character arc and where he's come. So I find this to be very interesting. Now, let's talk about some of the other leading theories as well. But also something before we actually jump into that real quick is I want to note the actual chapter's name, The Ghost of Winterfell. Well, that's a POV name for Theon, and he's kind of coming into this ghost-like figure, this hooded man of Winterfell who's been apparently killing people. Well, that's kind of interesting. But the other point of this to think about when it comes to, oh, there is this hooded figure killing people, well, that doesn't really seem to make sense, given that it seems like Mance's spearwives tactically basically admitted to the killings except for little Walder. So maybe this hooded figure killed little Walder. Maybe this was actually Theon that did it, and he just didn't know. It was part of his other personality. He's just kind of forgotten. This theory really takes very heavy inspiration from the movie Fight Club, and so it could be something like that. I tend to believe it was actually just Big Walder that ended up doing it, kind of building on that Frey kind of conflict and the Civil War type thing. So we're kind of given this information that it doesn't really seem like there actually is a lot of killings going on that would be from this hooded man, where we don't really have the evidence to necessarily support that, right? Like Theon thinks maybe this was the person, but that kind of does, it seems like, get solved at the end of this book. So it's interesting to think about, but let's think about some other possible candidates. Now, is this going to be a Stark loyalist? Is this someone that is very familiar with Winterfell? And those do make sense as to why this person would be very confident, right? Someone that knows the castle really well, the landscape really well, some of the people here very well. But my problem is, if this was some person that was like that, right? Why are they openly trying to show themselves, basically, when they are recognizable, right? Like if one of the Glovers, for instance, because there's a theory for both Galbert and his brother of being this character. And I think for me personally, neither one gives me the vibes of kind of like an assassin type character. So I would kind of stay away from them. One character that I think makes the most sense to me, just as kind of a backup if it's not Theon's like own mind and himself, is I really like the idea of that this character could actually be Harwin. We've already seen that the Brotherhood without banners is able to get into other parties pretty easily. Tom has already done that with Riverrun. And so this is kind of the part we talked about in yesterday's video, but Harwin could possibly be this character. Now, the reason I would have pause here is, one, it does seem like a fair distance to travel in a decently short amount of time to already be in this party and to be at Winterfell, given that we saw him at around the end of Feast. It wasn't like there was like a couple chapters left in the book, but again, very end of Feast, we just saw him with Lady Stoneheart. He seems like a very important person in that camp right now, but Harwin would make sense. He's someone that would know Winterfell really well. He's, aged a bit, maybe. He's maybe changed a little bit. Maybe he wouldn't be as recognizable to some of the people there, right? A lot of the people that would know him probably wouldn't, honestly. So maybe you could get away with that. It would make sense for Lady Stoneheart to have an informant here, given that there is this fake Arya thing going on, and just to have someone in her, basically her old home, Winterfell. That all kind of makes sense, and especially when you have this conflict with Stannis going on, Lady Stoneheart would probably take a lot of interest and want some sort of spy or influencer there. So I think all of that makes sense. I think for me, the problem with this theory and trying to uncover what's going on here is that there's just not a lot of information, right? Like the passage that I read for you guys in this video is pretty much all we have to go on, right? Just the mannerisms of this character and what Theon even thinks in the moment, what adds up, what doesn't really add up. And so you come to these other things where there's other people like, Malin, but like even then it's like, I just don't, like, what's the evidence suggesting? And that's the thing, maybe that's just me. I don't know all the evidence on this theory. It's not a theory I've looked into a ton, but given just the surface level looking at it, I don't know. I don't think it's more likely than the idea that it's just Theon's own brain messing with him. But again, thank you guys all for watching today's video, a kind of a shorter one, but we're going to be getting into some of, I guess, the most popular theories in A Song of Ice and Fire. And we're getting really close to the end of this event, so I wanted to say thank you guys for sticking around. I appreciate all the nice comments that I've seen. Again, very hard to keep up with comments and trying to respond to all of your guys' stuff, or at least like it. But yeah, it's been, you know, a really fun time. I'm getting towards the end of kind of my videos I need to record for this event until we're getting back to a regular schedule. So yeah, thank you for all the support. But in the next 2 videos, we're going to be talking about Ned and Ashara and or Brandon. And don't worry, guys, it's not going to be like me responding, and it's just going to be me laying out the theory, you know, talking about the theory, why people like it. It's not going to be like, you know, one of those videos where I trash the theory. But yeah, and then on Christmas we'll be doing R plus L equals J. I thought that made the most amount of sense for me personally, as it is one of my favorite theories. So we'll be talking about the theory, why I think it makes sense, and looking at all of that. Again, won't be really responding to either one of the theories because I've done that so much, and I don't really want to do that. You know, it's around Christmas time. I don't really want to get all worked up over defending my theory and stuff. But yeah, I'll just be kind of laying it out there for you guys. I couldn't really do this event without Ned and Ashara. As much as it's not my favorite theory, it's just one of the most popular ones. It's one you have to talk about if you're going to be doing a Winds of Winter event for theories going into the next book. It's just one of the most popular ones, and you can't deny that. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.